What do we mean by vibration?
When we speak of vibration, we're actually calling your attention to the basis of your experience, for everything is actually vibrationally based. We could use the word energy interchangeably, and there are many other words in your vocabulary that accurately apply. Most understand the vibrational characteristics of sound. Sometimes when the deep, rich bass notes of your musical instruments are played loudly, you can even feel the vibrational nature of sound. We want you to understand that whenever you hear something, you're interpreting vibration into the sound you're hearing. What you hear is your interpretation of vibration. What you hear is your unique interpretation of vibration. Each of your physical senses of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching exists because everything in the universe is vibrating, and your physical senses are reading the vibrations and giving you sensory perception of the vibrations. So as you come to understand that you are living in a pulsing, vibrating universe of advanced harmonics, and that at the very core of your being you are vibrating at what could only be described as perfection in vibrational balance and harmony, then you begin to understand vibration in the way we are projecting it. Everything that exists in your air, in your dirt, in your water, and in your bodies is vibration in motion, and all of it is managed by the powerful law of attraction. You could not sort it out if you wanted to, and there's no need for you to sort it out, because the law of attraction is doing the sorting, continually bringing things of like vibrations together, while things of different vibrational natures are being repelled. Your emotions, which really are the most powerful and important of your 6 physical vibrational interpreters, give you constant feedback about the harmonics of your current thoughts or vibrations, as they compare with the harmonics of your core vibrational state. The non-physical world is vibration, and your physical world that you know is vibration. There's nothing that exists outside of this vibrational nature, and there's nothing that is not managed by the law of attraction. Your understanding of vibration will help you to consciously bridge both worlds. You don't have to understand your complex optic nerve or your primary visual cortex in order to see, and in the same way you don't have to understand electricity to be able to turn on the light. And you do not have to understand vibrations in order to feel the difference between harmony or discord. As you learn to accept your vibrational nature and begin to consciously utilize your emotional vibrational indicators, you'll gain control of your personal creations and of the outcomes of your life experience.
We come forth not to get you to believe anything. We see great diversity in that which you believe. And in all of that, there is perfect balance. And so we come forth not to alter your beliefs, but to reacquaint you with the eternal laws of the universe. And we are here to express all of that to you in detail.
Let's talk a little bit about the nature of desire from, now don't get freaked out, a quantum physics point of view. Oh my God, this is going to talk about physics. I don't want to listen. Relax. You're going to enjoy this.
When we look around us, even at our own bodies, what we see is the tip of the iceberg. We could say the classical tip of an immense quantum mechanical iceberg.
Everything in the universe is energy. Your body's energy. The room you're living in is energy. Everything you want is energy.
And that's not a new idea. A fuzzy-haired guy in 1925 wrote on his chalkboard, E equals mc squared. And we couldn't grasp what that meant. What that says is on one side of the equation is mass and light and everything that we perceive, but it all equals energy. Everything is energy. And let me help you understand that just a little bit. There's the universe, of course, and our galaxy, and our planet, and then individuals, and then inside of this body are organ systems, and then there's cells, and then there's molecules, and then there's atoms, and then there is energy. So there are a lot of levels to talk about something on. But when you get down to it, everything is energy.
There's enough energy sitting in there, in one atom, to do amazing things, to possibly even open up the doorways to lighting an entire city.
Think of this for a moment. Take your hand and look at it. Now your hand looks solid, but it's really not. If you put it under a proper microscope, you'd see a mass of energy vibrating.
And so everything is made up of the exact same thing, whether it's your hand, whether it's the ocean, or whether it's a star. The colored paper with ink on it is not money. It's just energy. And so part of the illusion that we're living in is that, these things are solid. They're not solid. Neither is a piece of wood, neither is a rock.
Get the proper microscope and go and look at a wall. That wall is not solid. That wall is a mass of energy in a very high speed of vibration.
It feels solid because of the vibration, the rate at which the molecules are vibrating.
Everything in the universe vibrates. In other words, everything moves. We live in an ocean of motion.
You are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe.
Many people are not yet ready to acknowledge that they are vibrational. They prefer to see themselves as blood and bone specimens that they see in the mirror. And we want to remind you that everything that you observe with your physical senses is vibrational interpretation. In other words, you hear because your ears translate vibration. You see because your eyes translate vibration. You smell because your nose translates vibration. Your fingertips are translating vibration. Your tongue is translating vibration. All of your senses are about the translation of vibration, and that's why you are able to perceive your environment in the way that you do.
So it's very difficult for us as scientists or engineers or medical doctors or anybody to come to terms with the fact that what our senses are telling us is really not the whole story.
We've been so taught to live with our physical senses, hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. But our physical senses lie. Our physical senses don't tell us the truth.
If you only judged by your sensory factors, you'd believe the sun took a bath in the ocean every night and burrowed through the earth and was reborn on the eastern shore the next morning. I mean, the ancients used to believe that, but now you know better than that. If you judged only by your sensory factors, you'd believe that train tracks met in the distance. But you know better than that, and you turn away from your senses. If you lived only by your sensory factors, you'd believe that a dog whistle made no sound. But you know better than that, so you turn away from your sensory factors and you stand out in your yard and you blow away. And yet how many times, if we're not careful, do we find ourselves living at nothing more than the sensory level?
If we take a look at everything in the universe, we know from a scientific perspective is made up of something called energy. So what do we know about the properties of energy? Number one, all energy has a vibration. All energy has a vibration. It emits a frequency.
We are frequency generators. If you get close to someone's skin, you can feel infrared energy being given off. If you look at them, you're seeing light energy given off. We now have scans where you can put a machine around somebody's head instead of putting the electrodes on their head, and perceive and record the energy that their brain is giving off.
The most potent form of energy, by the way, is thought. It penetrates all space and all time. Every thought has a frequency. We can measure a thought. What most people don't understand is a thought has a biochemical and bioelectrical property. Every thought, which means it has a frequency. And so if you're thinking that thought over and over and over again, or if you're imagining in your mind, okay, having that brand new car, having the money that you need, building that company, finding your soulmate, if you imagine what that looks like, you're emitting that frequency on a consistent basis. Our job as humans is to hold on to the thoughts of what we want, make it absolute clear in our minds what we want, and from that we start to invoke one of the greatest laws in the universe.
This is a water droplet that you're going to see, and in this water droplet, a frequency is being pumped into this water droplet. As the frequency is mirrored in the droplet, you'll actually see the geometric patterns in that droplet. Now what's happening, and the reason that this is so significant, is because we're going to do a frequency sweep. We're going to go from low frequencies to higher frequencies. And what you'll find is this. You'll see that in the lower frequencies, the patterns are less complex. And in the higher frequency, the patterns are more complex. So we're going through a sweep from lower to higher frequency. I'm sharing this with you now because Earth is essentially going through a frequency sweep. Our fundamental pulse, our base pulse that has hovered around 7.8 cycles per second, now is changing. And again, there's a lot of controversy about what the change is, and we're witnessing the change. As we go through our planetary shift of this pulse, patterns of energy must change to respond to that, just as patterns of energy in this water are changing to respond to this pulse. And we'll begin with simply the concentric patterns in the water. As the frequency begins, every once in a while we'll reach a key threshold resonance, such as that moment right there. And in that key threshold resonance, the entire pattern morphed into a more complex expression of itself, simply because the frequency changed. Now watch what happens. The frequency is still increasing. Now watch what happens. As we reach another key threshold resonance, this entire pattern will morph into a beautifully and more complex pattern of itself, again and again. And look at this pattern right here. Look what you're seeing right here. Look at the beautiful geometry. Here is a perfect cube. There's a perfect tetrahedron, a star tetrahedron. In 2 dimensions, we've got the octahedron. Very powerful images of sacred geometry held in place simply because we've achieved the vibratory pattern that allows that in this water droplet. And as the vibration increases, these patterns will become more and more complex. You can see the pulse from where you are. Can you see the pulse actually in the water? As we go into the last set of the frequencies, what you'll see is that the entire, and you'll watch along the outer perimeter, the entire pattern reaches its greatest level of complexity, and then it goes back. As the frequencies drop, it goes back to what it was, the concentric circles, as it was originally. It almost looks alive. You know, you've been offered many times the concept that thought is vibration. Have you ever considered that emotion is vibration? Feeling is vibration. We are always feeling something. We are always emoting something. We may not always be aware of what that is. We carry those patterns with us. As we hold a feeling and an emotion, what we're doing is we are holding a vibratory pattern in the liquid crystal of our bodies.
This next series of photographs are the work of Japanese researcher Mr. Masaru Emoto from his book, The Message from Water. Mr. Emoto's work provides factual evidence that human vibrational energy, thoughts, words, ideas, and music affect the molecular structure of water. Please remember that water comprises over 70% of a mature human body and covers the same amount on our planet. Water is the very source of all life. This photo shows the beautifully formed geometric design of the Yushi Spring water. This next photo is from the Shimanto River, the last clean spring in Japan. Notice the extraordinary geometric forms. The fact that the molecular structure of water can be affected by our consciousness, our intent, and our sounds is extremely important. This photo is from the Mount Cook Glacier in New Zealand. Mr. Emoto has been visually documenting these molecular changes in water by means of his photographic techniques. He freezes droplets of water, then examines them under a dark field microscope that has photographic capabilities. His work clearly demonstrates the diversity of the molecular structure of water and the effects of the environment upon the structure of the water. This photo is from the fountain in Lourdes, France. This photo is from contaminated water from the Yodo River in Japan. In this photo we can compare the contaminated water with clean stream water. Look at the difference. Mr. Emoto decided to see what effects music would have upon the structure of water. He placed distilled water between two speakers for several hours while playing different music and then photographing the crystals that formed after the water was frozen. This photo is of water being exposed to Beethoven's Pastorale. This photo is the effect of Bach's Air for the G-string on the water. This photo is water exposed to Chopin's Farewell Song. This next photo is water being exposed and affected to music that was designed for healing. This photo is of water being exposed to the Kawachi folk dance. This photo shows the effect of heavy metal music upon the water. Here now we can compare the effects of healing versus heavy metal music and what happens to the water molecules. Mr. Emoto decided to see how thoughts and words affected the formation of untreated distilled water crystals by typing words onto paper and then taping this paper onto glass bottles overnight. This photo shows the effects of the words, "Thank you." This next photo shows the effects of the words love and appreciation. This photo shows the effects of the words, "You make me sick, I will kill you." And here we can compare the effects of thank you with the "you make me sick, I will kill you." Very, very different geometric forms being incurred through the intention. Now this photo is of a very polluted and toxic water from the Fujiwara Dam. Here now is the same water from the Fujiwara Dam after a Buddhist monk had offered a prayer over it. Prayer, that sound coupled with intention, seems to have an extraordinary ability of restoring water to its natural, harmonious, geometric symmetry. And in this photo we can compare the toxic water and then the effects of praying over the water. It's really quite impressive. These photographs that we have just seen show proof that not only does sound have the ability of affecting and changing physical structure, but that with regard to the molecular structure of water, that our intent with our sound is extremely important. This may have great implications for the future of both personal and planetary harmony and healing.
Physics reveals that it's the invisible stimuli that are much more important. There's a simple quote by Albert Einstein that makes sense out of this, and the quote is, "The field is the sole governing agency of the particle." What Einstein meant by this very simply is the field, the invisible energy forces around us, they are the sole governing agencies of the particle. The particles matter. And so quantum physics says the character of matter is ultimately determined by the field.
If we were ever going to interact with our bodies, if we want to heal our bodies, we want to create peace in our families or our communities, we must speak to the fields that connect all things. We must find a meaningful language, a non-verbal language that communicates with the stuff that this world is made of. The bottom line, the through line, is that they're all speaking about an experience, an inner experience that we have focused on our hearts. What the science now is showing is that those experiences extend beyond our bodies into the world around us, because the field of our heart is part of the world around us and connected with that field. So that when individuals can find a way to create coherence in their lives and become more cooperative, less aggressive, more willing to solve problems together, that experience is transmitted in this field and others begin to find the same experience just because they're in that field. They're in that field. When we have a feeling in our hearts, we're creating electrical and magnetic waves inside of our bodies that extend beyond our bodies into the world around us. And what's so interesting is the research shows that those waves extend not just 1 meter or 2 meters, many, many kilometers beyond where our heart physically resides.
And Keefe explains this phenomenon.
September 11th deeply affected people far beyond New York and Washington. The attack sent shockwaves around the world, a global reaction that triggered a spike in a network of scientific instruments, just like a seismograph during an earthquake.
Each of those showed a similar pattern of change during that day.
Retired Princeton scientist Dr. Roger Nelson believes the emotional focus of millions of people on a single event like 9/11 may form a global consciousness.
This chart shows a dotted line going up and down, which is the rise and fall on a daily basis of the number of people who are meditating as a group in Jerusalem. It's all on a volunteer basis. And the solid line represents progress towards peace in the war in neighboring Lebanon. And even before the benefit of statistical analysis, you can almost see from the raw data that progress towards peace, measured by reduced war deaths, reduced war injury, progress towards negotiated settlement among the rival factions, the progress towards peace goes up and down almost in lockstep with the number of people who are meditating as a group, radiating this influence of inner peace to become outer peace. When this was subject to mathematical analysis, the likelihood that this is simply due to some fluke, due to chance, is less than 1 part in 10,000, which for a social scientific experiment is extraordinary. To be able to say something with this certainty, that group meditation prevented war, that is a really remarkable finding. The likelihood that this reduction of war was again simply due to chance and not due to the meditating groups was less than 1 part in 10 million. There is far more evidence that group meditation can turn off war like a light switch than there is evidence that aspirin reduces headache pain. Aspirin reduces headache.
And here we can compare the effects of thank you with the you make me sick, I will kill you. Very, very different geometric forms being incurred through the intention.